All right, guys, welcome back to a brand new live stream on the channel. Hope you guys are having a good day. Declan, my friend, good to see you. Son, good to see you as well. Omar, walaikum salam, bro. Savage, how you doing, bro? Selflex, good to see you, bro. Steve, good to see you. Yusuf, good to see you as well. Okay, so I think the last time I went live was about a week ago. So since then, there's been a lot of stuff that's actually happened. We just had the biggest liquidation event in the history of crypto. And if you held any high caps during that time, you probably would have had a panic attack because a majority of them did go down around 70 to 80%, and in the space of hot 30 minutes. But if you've listened to me for the last 2 years, I've always said keep some cash on the side, and that cash would have been very, very good to use at that time because you had the likes of Injective coming down to like $3, Ondo coming down to 25. I think Atom on Binance went down to like 1 cent. So if people was alert during that time, if they was on if they had Atom on their watch list and they seen it go from $3 all the way down to 1 cent, even if you bought 100, 200, $500 during that time, you would have been up like 200-300x, which is just stupid. So yeah, we just had the biggest liquidation event. Some people say it's 20 billion, but I think the real numbers are in the hundreds of billions. And I think 2 point something million traders actually got liquidated. So even if you put the smallest of leverage, 2x, you still would have got liquidated. So just be careful if anyone that does trade with leverage. It doesn't matter what leverage it is. When the market is this manipulated as it is right now, it does not matter. Not all limit orders failed. Yeah, look, a majority of limit orders did not fail. I got into Injective and Ondo, and the reason I got quite lucky because when I was buying that shit, what actually happened was very simple, right? There was a few panic sellers. So as Injective came down, for example, there was a few panic sellers that were selling like hundreds of thousands of Injective, and it would go very fast. You had to catch them, and I caught two, and I ended up making a decent amount. Made almost 30 grand on the pullback. So when it came down and it went back up, I think Injective pumped around 3x from the lows. So did Ondo. If you bought anything during that time, everything would have just pretty much fucking went parabolic. 1 second, guys. Fucking hell. Anyway, so I wanted to go live because there was a very important piece of information that came out, which Powell spoke. I think it was yesterday or the day before. But Powell spoke, and if you listen to his speech, he did say that the Fed may stop shrinking balance sheet in the months ahead. And what that means is, when people talk about Altseason and why there hasn't been an Altseason in a very long time is mainly because of liquidity. Alts rely on liquidity. When the Fed is doing quantitative tightening, they are sucking that liquidity out of the system. So all the money they printed in COVID, they had to inject that back out. There was too much liquidity, inflation's too high, and they want to bring inflation down, go into QT. And then when there's clearly a money market liquidity issue, which is kind of what we're seeing now. I mean, Powell said, it's still okay, but it's getting to the stage where it's starting to dry up, and that's when they have to end QT. And it's very simple, right? When you look at the overnight repo, you guys can see this went from 2.4 to 2.5 trillion, and it's currently sitting at 3.5 billion. So there's no money parked at the Fed. Banks are not going to the Fed, to park their money, which is and all this means is if there was for anything to ever happen, the Fed does not have the means to actually come to the rescue, which is, I think that's one of the main reasons they're going to end QT in the coming months. And if you look at this, the unrealized security losses for the banks, it's in the hundreds of billions. So there's no rooms for error right now. There's no room for error. If any of these banks, if you put too much pressure on the banks, and if QT continues and you end up tapping into the reserves, you guys can see these guys are already underwater. The banks are not looking good at the moment. They're in the hundreds, almost $500 billion in losses. So if they get under pressure, what happens is you could get a bank run. And if one collapses, the entire system can collapse. That's how quick it can happen. And if the Fed does not be careful and the money liquidity in the money markets dry up, there's going to be a lot of issues. So I think, this is something that I said months ago that will most likely happen. There will be a pause in QT. The exact same thing kind of played out in 2017 where there was QT happening, interest rates were getting hiked, and then the pause QT, and then we had the Altseason. And I think that will come because the market likes the front run. At the moment, the reason, the price action is not aligning with what Powell said is mainly because of the China and the US, tariff wars that's happening right now. I don't really think that's going to last too long. They always do this bullshit. It's like all of these, I think the whole world is like a theater. Everything's kind of designed for it to happen in a way that it's supposed to. So they're going to shake a bunch of people out. I think they just already shaked a shit ton amount of people out. It would be too easy if this was just, come down here and then just go straight up. That would be too easy because why the DJs would just put in longs again. So they're going to keep liquidating CHOP for a little bit of time. I do think we are going to get the rate cut end of the month. There's a 97% chance of a rate cut in October. I mean, is that December or October? Yeah, so 97% chance in October and then a 95% chance in December. So, and if you listen to what Powell has said, he said half of the Fed board is expecting to ease for the rest of the year. So that means there's going to be 2 more rate cuts coming up. And this is exactly what the market wants. The market wants rate cuts. A lot of people think on a 5 minutes time frame. They only look at price action. They don't look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is the Fed is going into the easing phase of the cycle, and you should never, ever be bearish during the easing phase of the cycle because as QT starts to end, the market, the whales, they're going to start getting a little bit more risk on. You're going to see the likes of gold, which just put in a new all-time high. I think gold will eventually have a little pullback. I don't really see gold just continuously going up. The reason gold is going up now is very simple. When there's tariff wars happening, people always run to gold or silver. That's why gold and silver has been, I think the leading assets this year, specifically because of how much fuckery has happened this year. There's so much manipulation, there's a lot of uncertainty, and when there's so much uncertainty, the last thing people want to do is put their money into altcoins. They want to be into gold, they want to be in BTC, they want to be in USDT, they want to be in cash, DXY. I do think, the dollar is most likely going to come down again. I think the purchasing power on the dollar is likely to go down again. I think most people are going to go into the stock market or gold. And I think the dollar is going to continue to weaken. I think this is just there by design. I don't think they're going to make it go too low, but I still think the dollar will come down a bit more. I think people are going to go into euros, the Japanese yen, as the Fed start to cut rates. That's what happens. Every time there's more rate cuts on the table, gold would always go higher. That is just how it is. Ross, how you doing, bro? Recovery on the wick on BTC. So I think what's happening now is, I think Binance, where is it? Yeah, so Wintermute just sent millions of stable coins to Binance. So I think what they're doing is they're getting ready for a recovery. Fucking Coin Brewer is saying that, China is intentionally crashing the markets to gain leverage over Trump. I don't know how true this is. This is obviously allegations. No one knows how true this is, bro. It could be true. I mean, if you look at, the biggest bondholders, China was once upon a time the second biggest. They've been dumping a shit amount of bonds, and I think that's another leverage over the US that they have, and they've kind of already used that. So, it's all these guys are just in a leverage game of trying to get one up on the other. It has a monopoly over certain things, and China has a monopoly over certain things. So they can't really, US can't really bully China, and China can't really bully US. It's just an ego contest right now with Trump. And obviously the market is feeling the full brunt of that, especially with crypto. Crypto is always going to be, the easiest asset class to manipulate because it doesn't need a lot of money to manipulate. If something, if the market doesn't like something, the first place you're ever going to see is in crypto. And then you're going to see but there's so much money in the stock market, you won't feel it as much, or the NASDAQ. But the Russell is almost at the all-time highs, or is having a very good recovery, which is a good indication of where the market sentiment is, which at the moment is starting to slowly become risk on. And that's when Altseason or altcoins start to thrive a little bit better than some of the other coins. So very good to see you, bro. I got beamed during the crash. Now I got a massive back orbit as well. Yeah, I mean, if you bought anything during the crash, bro, you would have done very well. You look at, just look at some of these wicks, bro. The wicks were disgusting. I couldn't even believe it. I was just chilling, I mean, look at that, bro. That's just crazy. Objective went to $2.3, and then straight back up in the space of an hour. I think it was an hour. Yeah, that's why, like, when you're in the in a business cycle where there's so much uncertainty, there's the physical aspect, there's the macro aspect, there's so much going on. You always want to keep around 10 to 20% of your portfolio in cash, not only because when the price does go down, you're not panicking because you got money to buy. The people that panic the most when price dumps is the people that don't have cash to buy. They start to get a little bit more worried, and they get a little bit more frustrated. And when you get more frustrated, you start to make stupid decisions. This is just how the market always works. And I've learned that over the years. I used to be one of those guys that when I wanted to buy, I'll just buy all in. And then when the market dumps and you're down on your investments, you become a little bit more emotional compared to if you have cash on the side and you can be, if it dumps, you can take advantage of it. If you trade with your 10, 20% cash, and grow your portfolio over the year, because this year, if you have not been trading and you've just been holding, it's literally been 2 weeks of up, 2 weeks of down, 2 weeks of up, 2 weeks of down. And people over time get really, really frustrated. That's how it is. One like, one prayer for the To be fair, on this dump, low caps did not get affected at all, or as much as the high caps. If you had low caps on this recent dump, it was not as bad as high caps. High caps went down 70, 80%, low caps went down 5, 10%, 20%, and a lot of them just recovered back up, or some of them didn't even really move. Sensei, good choice, yes. So Sensei just released their roadmap. I think they're going to release a brand new product. So Fortune 500 companies lose, 3.31.5 billion from employees who leave, and I think they're releasing a product around this. And if you guys don't know, Sensei is now like a full operating business, which is pretty good compared to, if you look at the likes of specific low caps, a majority of them do not generate revenue. Sensei recently has got close to 4,000 clients, which I think is generating them anywhere between 50 to 70 grand a month, which is quite good. I mean, compared to specific low caps, I don't think 99% of low caps don't make a penny. If you're making anywhere between 50 to 70 grand a month, you can operate pretty well without having to dump that shit, having to dump all your tokens, which a lot of projects do. Do I fuck with meme coins or do I stick to utility? I do a little bit of meme coins, but I'm not really that good in that space, I'll be honest. But like, if I was to buy meme coins, I'll stick to like the main ones. Even then, meme coins have been struggling recently. I do have a few meme coins. I have a few on base and I have a few on Solana, but they've just been doing nothing. Sway, you're good, bro. Let me see. What's your comments? Let me have a look. Still bullish on autos. I don't hold autos in my portfolio. I don't think it's a bad project. I think their move to go full DEX, I think that's a good move, because even though DEX has its market makers, it's just less manipulated. I mean, if you look at, for example, you look at Snift, right? Snift is on the verge of getting delisted from Mexi, and every single time Mexi delists or threatens to delist the project, you're going to see the price action go down like 50%. The reason is very simple, right? Is because Mexi just dumps all their tokens and then delists them. They don't do it. They dump, and then they delist because they don't give a shit. They'll just list another token 2 days later or an hour later. So, I think centralized exchanges this cycle, I think a lot of people have woken up to the aspect of centralized exchanges being, I don't think they're worth. And when I see a lot of people say, oh, when's this project getting new listings, that project getting new listings? Well, all the projects that was on the tier 1 listing went down 70, 80% during the manipulation. All the projects that did not have the tier 1 listings, OKX, Bybit, and Coinbase and Binance, most of them didn't even move. They went down 5, 10% and recovered, or 20% and recovered. That's not bad at all. And that's where the tier 1s, the market makers are all the same, and the manipulations are all the same. So I don't really think the exchange listings, and I think autos moving to DEX only is a good move. Can AI take 20x? I don't know, actually. There's a lot of selling pressure on AI tech. I think you can do a 10x. I don't know about 20x. Fancy, good to see you. DC, good to see you as well, bro. Very glad to see you, bro. Yeah, so like I said, I think Altseason will happen. It's just a matter of when the Fed will end QT. That's all it comes down to. I don't think we're going to get QE. There's actually a theory that I've come up with. I think what Trump administration is doing very simply, right? They've shut down the government, and I think they've shut down the government for a specific purpose. They want to bring inflation down because a majority of the inflation is driven by, government spending. So if the government shut down and there's no spending, inflation will by design come down because the tariffs are one-time hike in inflation. They're not a consistent weekly thing. Tariffs are not going to go up every week. They come in place and that's it, right? But majority of the inflation comes from government spending. So over the next couple of months, if government spending has gone down, inflation in the coming weeks, I think the inflation data is coming out on the 24th of this month. I think inflation will come down. I don't know if it's going to come down this month because it's going to come for the previous month, but the month after this one, I think inflation will decide to come back down again. I think GDP will come down. Why? Because a lot of GDP also gets stimulated from government spending. So if there's no, if government's not spending, GDP will by design come down as well. And then I think unemployment is going to go up because a lot of government workers are either getting furloughed or laid off. So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to bring GDP down, they're trying to bring inflation down, but they're trying to put unemployment up. So the Fed cut rates because the whole goal of the Trump administration, the government, is to lower interest rates so they can refinance the debt because it will save them tens and hundreds of billions, and that's why they're manipulating the markets as much as they are at the moment. So that's what I think they're going to do. And I think as GDP goes down, I do think they're going to do some sort of bond buyback because all this does is put pressure on the bonds to go higher. And I do think the goal eventually will be, and I think they'll do some sort of, back-end QE, whether they're buying back large amounts of bonds, because if you look at the bond market, it's not in the best position at the moment. Look at all the yield, the 10-year yield, the 30-year yield is still reasonably high. And I think a lot of this will have to do with government. So if the government shut down, and all these puts more pressure, these are going to come down. And I think the Fed will have to potentially buy back bonds again. I'm not too sure yet. I think in the coming months we'll definitely know. Yusuf, good to see you, bro. Walaikum salam, bro. Do I like Zora ecosystem coins without the Epic chain? Okay, so I do like Zora. I think Zora can do well. I think Zora is a cabal from the Coinbase team, and they're always going to pump the cabal coins. I don't think Zora is a bad project at all. I think this recent pump was caused because they got listed on Robinhood, which is quite good. Anything below 500 million gets listed on Robinhood will have a decent pump. So I don't think Zora is a bad project. I think it will have another pump. I don't know if it could potentially go to the billions, but you understand Coinbase does not have the same power that Binance has. When Binance wants to come out a coin, they can send it to 1 billion if they want to, and they can keep the momentum going. I don't know if Coinbase has the same, money behind them as Binance. So, and Zora is one of those where if you tried the Zora app yourself and you've tried to make money on there, it's impossible. Only maybe less than 1% of the people that use the platform actually make any sort of money. So I don't know how well it's going to do because it's difficult to make money on there. People will go try it out. They might try it for like a week. If they can't make a penny, they're not going to use the platform. And that's the issue with Zora. Epic, I've never really looked into Epic, to be honest with you. The last time I looked into it, they did not have any product, so I can't really give it any specific thought on it. Yo, that's funny as shit. Yeah, so unless BTC, this is the only time every single one of you should be bearish, if not get bearish. At the moment, as long as BTC right now, if it goes below the 50-week moving average, which is sitting around the 100 to 101 region. I don't know why I can't have it. I don't have the 50-day moving average on here. On the weekly, right? On the weekly, let me see if I can pull it up. So that's the 50-day moving average, or 50-week moving average at least, right? As if BTC, this is the area I marked out like a month ago. I was expecting BTC to come down to this area when we was over here. Instead, we bounced up to an all-time high and then came down, which is very weird. This is how the market makers always catch you out. But anyways, the 50-week moving average is this over here, which is around our 100K region. If you get 2 weekly closes below the 50-week moving average, which in every single case has held. So during the tariff phase, if you guys look at the bull market, right? If you look at the overall structure of BTC, you guys can see it's always held this gray line, which is the 50-week moving average, right? It held it during the tariff days when everyone was calling for a bear market. It's held it so far. At the moment, it's just holding the bull market support band, which is always good. It's still above the 200-day moving average, but if we get 2 weekly closes below this line over here, then ultimately I would say this market is done. So until this has happened, the bull run is still on, in my opinion. There's no reason for you to get bearish. The current sentiment in crypto is very simple. 1 week of calling for a super cycle, 1 week calling for the end of the cycle. That's where the sentiment is. There's no in between. It's 1 week people are extremely bullish, and then the other week people are extremely bearish. This is the issue we have in the markets right now. This is why the market makers, enjoy these type of environments, because when everyone's bullish, the motherfuckers go and put 50, 100x leverages. Market makers fuck them up. When everyone's bearish, they get overly bearish. They call for end of the cycle, and they do the exact same thing, and market makers fuck them up. That's why every fucking week you see 500 million, a billion get liquidated like it's nothing. It's because everyone is either extremely bullish or extremely bearish. And when you get into that phase, you are going to eventually put high leverage. And this is why we had this massive reset. Eddie, how you doing, buddy? China Joe, good to see you. Any thoughts on Reek? I hold a bag of Reek as part of my a DGen bag. I got into cola very, very early. I made like a 10x on cola. And I think Reek is given a similar vibe to cola, on Solana at least. If this maybe comes down to here or here, I would bid some. I think this chart looks very, very good. The team is actively building. It's still very low in market cap. So, I'm still bullish on this. But I think this project can do well, my friend. But, look for a good entry. Don't risk anything major because it's still a Solana coin. Solana coins can go down 90% in one day. That's how it is. But I hold a small bag into this because I think it can do decent. Probably is still good, yeah. Probably is still good, my friend. ChatGPT went down 75% down. Yeah, because it's listed on Binance. That's why. I think everyone's going to remember that night forever. Low cap's not affected during that dump because you can't do leverage on it. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, exactly, Eddie. I'm not checking anything. Bricken's doing very well. If you look at Bricken's chart is probably one of the best charts in crypto right now. It's just been holding so strong. It does not matter where the market goes. Bricken, I'm not going to lie, this is one of the best charts you can probably get in crypto right now. Pump, market retraces, but it's holding, this holding really, really strong, which is very surprising. It's the exact same thing with Sensei. Another very, very good chart. This is a very good chart. A lot of people don't realize it's holding the exact same support for the last, almost 2 years now. It's very good because when the next phase comes, it will explode back up. Good to see you, my friend. Which one out of B do you think will give the most returns? It's hard to say. I think the safest one and I think the most reliable one is probably Bricken. Just look at that chart. That's very good. I think if you want to be a little bit more risky in terms of the amount of hype the project can gather, I think it will probably be StateX. I think ATR is pretty good. ATR's had a decent pump today, and the reason is because this is where token utility is important. Look at ATR, right? It just pumped to 1 cent and has kind of come down a bit, But this is positive because it means when people are using a platform, let's say they got a new Rolex and people want to buy it, they have to go on market, buy a bunch of ATR, and they enter the raffle. That's where the token utility comes in. But I think if you want the best, you have to go with Ondo. I think Ondo will always be the king of RWA. Chainlink, that's the high caps. If you want one that can gather a lot of hype and still very solid, I'll probably go with Bricken. And if you want one that can give you a bunch of returns, high risk, I don't think it's that high risk. I think the team is quite capable. It probably will be StateX, in my opinion. StateX has come down, but the team can gather a lot of hype because they got a lot of KOLs behind them. That's the difference. And it's like there's a big difference where you just maybe you give people maybe you give people some of the supply, give them tokens, but what StateX has done is every single KOL they've onboarded, they've made them invest into the project. So these KOLs will have no choice but to pump it at some point because they hold a bag themselves. I mean, if you hold a bag, you're KOL, you're going to talk about your project. So that's just how it is. Because you've liked the project enough to buy a bag. Aped a big bag in Bricken. Yeah, I think that's valid. I've also got a massive bag of Bricken. Yeah, boys, hit the likes. Let's get to at least 60 likes in the stream. What will you do if it happens? We already reached the top. Not Altseason is downhill. My issue is a lot of ideas. Yeah, so that's a very valid question. I think that is something that we all should consider. The whole point of a bear market is that most people don't know that you're in a bear market. So we could very well be in a bear market. That's not my base case. And obviously I'm still in the markets, very active. And the reason is very simple, right? I look at the macro aspect, and normally when you're entering the easing phase of the cycle where the Fed is actively wanting to cut rates, credit becomes cheaper, borrowing money becomes cheaper, you're not really going to top during that time. I do very well think we are in the final phase of the cycle. There's a very big chance, there's still a chance, not a big chance, sorry, but there's a chance we could go into 2026 depending on if the Fed is willing to, and a lot of people now are in the 4-year cycle camp. I'm not in the 4-year cycle camp because if you are in the 4-year cycle camp, last week would have been the top and you should have already been selling, or you should have sold already. So if you follow the 4 years, there's still a chance the top is in as of last week. So like I said, every cycle is not going to play the same. When Bitcoin first came around, crypto first came around, the last 10 years, whatever you want to call it, right? There wasn't a lot of money in crypto. Now there's a lot more money. There's a lot more manipulation. And right now we are in a business cycle. Business cycles are completely different from the past. And I don't think every cycle has to play out the same. Like, 4-year cycle is going to end at this time, around these times. It doesn't have to play out the same. Why? Because it's a business cycle. It's completely different. The business cycle ends when the Fed is maybe cutting too aggressively or maybe starting QE, and we're still, I think, another year away from that. So there's always a chance the market can go into 2026. There's a chance if you just follow specific things. So that's how it is. But then you follow other things like, unemployment spike, randomly. That could be the end of the cycle because you're going to go into a recession. It will be the end of the cycle for like 6 months. Everything will probably crash 80-90%. And then at some point they'll do QE and everything will recover again. But it depends how bad the recession is. That's what it comes down to. But there is a chance, yes. If that does happen, I will most likely sell all my position and then just end up buying them cheaper. That's what I would do. I would get into 100% cash because although alts are down a bunch, they can always go down an extra 90%. People can't fathom that, but it does happen. Like alts can go down 90% and then still go down another 90%. Shahid, how you doing, bro? Walaikum salam, man. How you doing? Sensei Archie Puppies, not good book. Which one the most potential? Um, which one was it? Look, anything to do with gaming is always going to be a disappointment. You gotta remember that because the last 2 years gaming has been pretty much a dead narrative. So I've always minimized my position in gaming. I still hold gaming coins, but they don't really affect my portfolio whether they go up or down. I would say gaming has been, but the rest of them I think has been doing fairly well. I would say prop based price action is a bit slower. Bricken's been doing well. AI Tech's been doing okay, but like I said, I made like 45x on AI Tech, bro. So I'm not really going to complain about that. Our trade, I think, is still good. Our trade is in the same region as I bought last year. It's just slightly down, like 5-10% lower, but it's in the exact same region. Sensei is in the exact same region as I bought it a year ago. Bricken is at the exact same region I bought it a year ago. Rio is slightly down, but Rio goes up and down very fast, so I'm not too worried. It'll go down when the market goes down, and it'll go up when the market goes up, which is ideally good. Which one? I think out of those, I would say Bricken and Sensei has the most potential, considering Bricken it does generate revenue, so they can keep expanding the team. Sensei generates revenue, they can keep expanding the team and build more products. I mean, Sensei has close to 4,000 clients. Last week it was 3,000. This week is almost 4,000. Yeah, so the injective shit lasted a few minutes, bro. But you had to basically catch people like panic sellers and just buy their bags off them. So you had to be quick. Like as it was going up, there's always going to be big orders that people wanted to sell as it's going up. They had to just buy off them. That's how it was. Bro, you could only buy one project. That's it. Like, you could only buy one project because it happened in like 5 minutes where everything came down, and as everything was going up, you only pretty much had time to buy one. It was fucking annoying. And the worst thing is, if you held, if you did not have money on the side, it probably would have taken you a whole day to inject money back in. That's the crazy thing. And some exchanges, the tier ones, they froze everything. You couldn't buy anything because they froze everything. That's the crazy thing. Mexi, I think Mexi was one of the only exchanges where they did not freeze trading. Coinbase, Bybit, Binance, all the fuckers basically stopped trading. On Mexi, I was able to buy. I don't know why you wasn't. I was able to buy on Mexi, but you was not able to buy on most of the other ones, which is quite worrying. I mean, they say fucking decentralization, but it's all BS. Mr. T, good to see you, bro. AI Tech or PAL, and why? I'll probably go with AI Tech. And the reason I'll go with AI Tech is because it does have a unique aspect in the sense where if you look at other projects, right? You look at other projects, no project in the crypto space has a real life data center. And data is always gonna, I think the requirement or the need for data will expand as AI gets more and more bigger because you can't have either or. You need to have both. And data centers, GPUs and CPUs are always going to be needed. Look at NVIDIA chips. NVIDIA is the biggest company in the world for a reason because it is needed in the world. So I do think Shinobi, good to see you as well, my friend. Victor, good to see you. How you doing? That's why I think AI Tech is in a better position than PAL. PAL is okay. It's not a bad project. PAL has more KOLs than AI Tech. Like Alex Becker, House Crypto, etc. So it does have a good chance of pumping. But I think AI Tech has more money behind them. And I think it's better in my opinion. For the longevity as well. With the buyback and all. DMT, yeah, stupid bullish on REC, yeah. I think REC will do well. Fuck, I just got rid of the comments part. Shit. Oh, there we go. DMTR, that's an old project, bro. I did close to 100x on DMTR back in the days. This is a very old project. Very old project, man. I got into this fucking years ago, man. Look at that chart. Chart looks crazy. You'd think this chart looks crazy, but this done almost 100x. Like that's how crazy it is. But yeah, it had this massive crash. I don't know what happened here. Since they're doing the buybacks now, so it's been doing really well recently. I mean, if you got in around these regions, you'd be doing okay now. But I don't like the MTR, my friend. I don't like the narrative. It's a quite niche narrative. That's why I don't like it. Yeah, I think Dan is cooking, bro. I mean, just look at their roadmap. Once they drop, their product, but the roadmap looks really bullish, bro. Everything is business related. So, new product launch, which is going to come very soon in November, I think. Early enterprise pilot for new products. So they're going to get some, AI chatbots available in the studio. Acquire 25 enterprise clients for the new. So the new product, they want to get 25 enterprise clients. Like I said, they have 4,000 clients already, and it's only increasing every week. But the next time I go live, it might be close to 5,000, 4,500, 5,000. So the revenue is growing consistently, which is very good. It's turning into a real business. Expand AI, Sensei AI agent adoption, further integration for enterprises, Teams, Slack, WhatsApp integration, fundraise. So they're going to do another wave of VC fundraising, which means they can expand the team, get new exchange listings, etc. Team offsite. So they're going to buy, an office or whatever, right? Regional client expansion beyond America and Europe. Human in the loop feedback system. So there's a lot of key partnerships in Web2 and Web3, and I think they're going to release some partnerships very soon as well. So scale to 100 clients. So their goal is very ambitious, and it's a very business oriented, roadmap, which is very good. At the end of the day, when you're investing into these projects, you invest into businesses, and if your business is generating revenue, it has the chance of the longevity aspect. 99% of crypto projects do not generate a penny. You have to remember this. And when it goes to the bear market and the interest is dead, a lot of these projects, a lot of the team just fucking give up. But when you're building a business that's actually making money, like think of it from your own perspective. If you're building a business and let's say you built an AI agent business, for example, right? AI agents right now, most of them are under the water, they're dead. And and the only way you can make money is by selling your token. Eventually, the community leaves because your token's consistently going down, right? So you have no community, you have no one to dump on. At the same time, you're not generating revenue, no one's using product, no one gives a shit you exist. No, you're just going to move on to the next latest hype because that's what a majority of devs do. But if you're building a business, a legit business, where you can consistently go for the business, you're going to work even harder on that business and turning into something that you can keep for a long time. That's why revenue is so important. Gil, good to see you, my friend. But yeah, Fizz. Yeah, exactly. I bought on Etsy. You bought all three. I only got Indian on those Fizz. Got under at 32, C at 12. Fucking hell, you caught C at 12. That's crazy. We had stables on exchange and it was pretty hard to fill. Yeah, it was very hard to fill, man. You have to be lucky and catch panic sellers because there's always going to be panic sellers. People don't realize this. So how can 2026 be bearish if QT is about to end and they're slashing rates? This is what I mean. I mean, is the only thing that would make it bearish, Crispy, is because unemployment rate, right? I'm going to unemployment rate. Unemployment rate, if you look at it historically, right? Shit. Unemployment level, right? Or unemployment rate, sorry. You look at unemployment over the years. Let me go on the weekly chart. Let's get rid of the Fed. You look at unemployment, what tends to happen is, and this is where the recession comes into play, right? It slowly climbs up, and this historically, if you look at it, historically 4.3% is very low, compared to the 10%, the 9%, the 8%, the 7%. 4.3% is fairly low historically, but if you look at the trend in overall, unemployment rates over the years, over the recessions, you can see it climbs, and then it explodes up. This is something that people have to remember when it comes to unemployment rates. It slowly climbs, and then just explodes up. If you look at here, slowly climbs, and then explodes up. So this is what you have to be careful of, is the explosion of the unemployment rate. You can see it slowly climbing up. It could be 2 months, 5 months down the line where it just shoots up. So that's where I get the aspect of QT ending and rates, coming down. It all depends on specific factors in the macro aspect. One of them being the most important one, at least, being the unemployment rate. Because if this is, just accelerates up, they don't have no choice but to announce a recession. There's no choice. So this is what we have to be careful of as well. Very careful of. Bonk called Mamo here, even though it's a shit time. A good trade, I think. Bonk guy called Momo. Yeah, Bonk ecosystem right now. Bonk is getting some FUD. You have to keep that in mind. There is some FUD around Bonk. Why? Because they were supposed to pay the devs, and they haven't been paying the devs, and because of that, like, Bonk ecosystem went from being actually community driven to just being useless, and that's it. Like, they don't give a shit about all the other memes. They only care about that one useless coin. That's it. The rest of them are just fucking dying. That's the problem. Even less Bonk token itself is dying, which is quite concerning. What do I think about Plank Network building for 3 years, launch on November? I'll have a look into it separately. I can't really look onto it. Let me see actually if I can find it on Plank. Oh, I've actually looked into. I'm following them. Oh, is this the one that's backed by fucking CEO of co-founder of USDT? I have seen this. Yes, it looks quite decent. Let's see. I mean, if the market's hot and the narrative is hot, you can always trade it. But I have looked into this before. Yeah, it looks interesting though, nonetheless. I like the narrative. It's a layer 0 for AI and GPU. Dice Shing, good to see you, bro. Andy, good to see you. Any update on props? Yeah, props is just look at the price action for props. Obviously, took a hit like a majority of other things, but props is still they're doing fine, bro. Props are doing fine. Like I said, prop base is one of those that is a bit slower than most other projects in price action till the narrative comes around. That's all it is. They had an AMA. Oh, the AMA is tomorrow, so stay tuned. You guys can see for the AMA, they're going to talk about successful real estate tokenization, exciting marketing plan. So if you guys remember last time I told you to buy props, it done a 2x. If you bought props, well, not 2x, but it done around a 50-60% move. So the last time they done their marketing plans was in August. So throughout August, they done a bunch of marketing. It went from like 2.5 to almost 4 cents. So it moved a decent amount. And then obviously the market corrected. And then it corrected with the markets. That's how it is. So they're going to be releasing their upcoming mobile app, which is going to be quite interesting because this was supposed to come out a while ago, but they delayed it because of market conditions. So, but props is still growing as a project. I mean, if you look at how much holders they've managed to generate, it's massive. It's like 66,000 holders for like a project that's 8 to 9 million in market cap. There's a massive community behind it. Just look how much it gets posted on Twitter. When the hype comes back, and this is people don't realize how community it becomes very important during the hype. When the hype comes back and RDB narrative, starts to become a little bit more prominent, you're going to see projects like Rio, like PropBase, that literally has one of the biggest communities in the space. You're going to see them thrive the most because they get shielded the hardest. I mean, well, it gets shielded more than BNB, more than Asta, and everyone's been talking about Asta. So there's a massive community behind it, which is always good. This is, like I said, short term, price action has not been the best, but I don't care because I'm very bullish on this project long term as well. I think this is a project that's going to be around next cycle as well. But they got like 66,000 holders, bro, which is, I think that's insane for a project that's like 8-9 million in market cap. So I definitely would not be worried about prop basement. they're gonna do well in Q4. And like I said, once RWA comes around, you're gonna see how quick it moves. It's all about waiting for the narrative to come. That's all crypto is. If you believe in the narrative, hold the best tokens in the narrative. If you don't hold anything in the narrative. If you don't believe in RWA, you shouldn't hold any RWA projects because crypto specifically works in narratives, nothing else. When do I think Aventus will go up? I don't hold Aventus, bro. Like if you was watching my other live stream, I told you instead of buying Aventus, you could have bought this, and you could have made like 8-9x. The last person told me about Aventus, I told him to buy this, like when it was down here somewhere. And then like 2, 3, 4 days after my live stream ended, well, this shit exploded to $1 something. So from 15 to 14 cents all the way to like, I think it was 120. I don't know why this always cuts it a little bit. I would rather buy this over Aventus, to be honest with you. It just has more hype and is a lot lower in market cap. Ben Cameron was about Bitcoin dominance. Yeah, I think he blocked me actually. He blocked me. Ben Cameron blocked me because he posted some stupid shit. Let me see. Ben Cowan. Yeah, he blocked me because he came on here. Oh, I went unblocked. Now he's blocked me. See. He's blocked me. Fucking clown. Came on here and he said something in the likes of, oh, the reason, I think recently, he said, recently I've been making a bunch of calls, a bunch of good calls, something along those lines. And let me see if I can find them. Oh, yeah, this one right here. Recently, I've made some good calls, and then because I said this, you spend the first half of the cycle making terrible calls. He fucking blocked me because of that, which is true. I mean, if you can have an ego and be arrogant, is weird because I think he's forgetting that in the first half of the cycle, he made terrible calls. He was calling for 10K BTC all throughout 2023. He said the ETFs would not get accepted, and July or June of 2023 was the high. So he was expecting BTC to come down back to 15 to 10K. And obviously we only went 5x higher from there. So I don't know where his followers got this confidence, because a majority of the people that followed him in 2023, realistically, they would have never got Bitcoin at the lows. They probably would have bought a tiny amount, but they never had kind of the same conviction, because Ben spent the whole 2023 saying Bitcoin's going to come back down to 10K, and he ended up going to 60, 70K. So, that's the issue. But that's the thing though with people. So 1 week when dominance goes up, Ben Cowan will start, dunking on people. And then next week when Bitcoin dominance comes down, crypto people or altcoin season callers, they go and dunk on Cowan. So it's like a back and forth. Like, it's just childish. It's like 1 week he'll get the upper hand. Next week the other guys will get the upper hand. That's all it is. Let me get number. What do you mean get number for what? Would I buy? No, I missed Asta. I'm not gonna buy it now. I just don't see the point of buying something in the billions. Like, DEX is good, but I don't like anything how 90% of the supply by one guy, especially with the Binance fuckers. I'm not buying any of those, bro, I'll be honest. I think AV&T could pump, but I think a lot of people, and this is something I've always told people, is they forget, right? They get blinded by the initial pump. This is what happens to a bunch of people, bro. They get blinded by the initial pump, and they forget that a lot of these projects have unlocks. They have the initial pump, and then they could spend the next 6 months just continuously going down. I'll give you a prime example of a project that, a couple of months ago, everyone was telling me to buy when it came out. Why? Because it did this, came out, had this fucking crazy pump. People were telling me, buy this shit, man. This project is crazy. This, that. And then it just spent the whole year pretty much just going down. And that could very well happen to AV&T. It won't happen to Asta because 90% or 95% of the supply is bundled in the top 3 wallets. So it's obviously a monopoly by Binance team. But AV&T is not like that. AV&T could very well spend the next year or maybe 3 months or whatever. If you pump, you obviously pump in the markets, but if you don't pump, it could just slowly keep going down. And people forget this and forget that there's a bunch of unlocks. You don't even know how much the early investors are up. We could probably check, right? So you have to look at specific things like where did all these early investors? It's not on here. Look at where and what price. A lot of these early investors got it at. Is this the one? I think it is the one. So Seed, Series A, Pantera. Well, what's the price though? That's the price. Yes, there's not a lot of information on this. That's the problem. So you want to look into specific things like, what price did the early investors get in at, etc. Because that's what matters. If the early investors got this at fucking 2-3 cents, you're going to be just exit liquidity from them every month or maybe it's linear unlocks. Like how can if they got in at 1 or 2 or 3 cents, how are you going to outbid them being up 30x? It's impossible. You're never ever going to outbid them. The sell pressure will always be higher than the buy pressure, and over time it's just going to slowly bleed. So you have to look into specific things. I can't really look into it because Crypto Rank has decided to fucking put a membership on this shit. I'm not paying for that. Arrow C. Arrow, I think a 3 to 5x. A C 3 to 5x as well, and Arc probably around the same. Wait for the unlock, I think. Just wait for the unlock. It's in like 2-3 days. Better off waiting. My 4-year no mercy staking for Yo, Shinobi, that's funny. My 4-year no mercy staking for NXRA finally unlocked tomorrow. Then it was 4 years. Fucking hell. You know what? NXRA 4 years ago was actually a good project. Like it was called Alliance Block and it was looking fairly well. And then it got hacked and it just got fucked. That's at least you got free money coming in there. Mr. BS, good to see. What's my minimum maximum price prediction for Sensei on OTK? So it all depends on narrative. I think Sensei will do well anyways because Sensei is obviously established. It's a business now, generating revenue, has a very active team, and it's a very good narrative. AI is a good narrative. Well, on the other hand, you got OTK, team's still active, but the only issue with OTK is the narrative is dead. So it all depends on if gaming comes back or not. If gaming doesn't come back, OTK could potentially do like a 3 to 5x from here. Or if the gaming comes back, if the gaming comes back, it could do stupid numbers, honestly. It can do stupid numbers. That's something that you have to realize. But that's a bunch of if, buts, and maybes because no one knows if gaming is going to come back. It will over the next 2-3 years. Of course it will. But we're talking about the next couple of months, which is what we're looking at. So it's impossible to say, but even if it doesn't, I think some money will rotate there at some point. I sold all my gaming coins and moved to funds. Yeah, that's valid. Phenom, good to see you, bro. How are you doing today? Japsy, Karen needs to be humbled. Again, for real, missing the biggest Altseason. Yeah, I mean, the problem is he did say he's been on a streak. By his streak, he will get humbled eventually, 100%. Chris, appreciate the €6, buddy. Happy to catch you live and going back on Monk soon. The Monk's been off this year. You can't blame the Monk, Chris, but you have to blame the market makers this time, bro. Eventually, they won't be able to stop us. They won't be able to stop us. But now, the Monk did very well with AI taking AGI. But with all they've been, all did okay recently, but it has come down again. But, let's see. You need to get a refund from the Monk, though, this time. Maybe next year, the Monk will be right again. Or in the next 2 months. Will you invest into any DEX projects, for example, Hydrex, or do you think it's too late? You can invest into Hydrex on a dump. I don't think it's a... But look, it's I don't like projects. Like Hydrex it's one of those, right, where it's giving out too much API for my liking. Like too much API. Like if you go Zora on here, you can get like 300x or 300% API. I don't like that shit. It's It's just too inconsistent. I don't like stuff like that. So I traded it, and I think the next narrative is like just like any narrative, right? Just like AI agent in November, December, just like the DEX narrative the last month, just like RWA or whatever, or gaming like 3 years ago. Just like every narrative, it's not gonna be relevant in a month's time because a new narrative will take over. That's the thing. So you have to be very careful not to get blinded by the hype. The hype is there while it's there, and then it moves on. Like I said, in December, everyone thought AI agents was the next big thing, the future. Everyone was launching AI agent projects. Look at AI agent projects now; all fucking dead. And that's how quick sentiment and attention in crypto moves on. So you have to be very careful. Look into stuff that's been dead and come back, rather than look in buying stuff that's hyped right now and could die later. So look at this. This chart explains AI agents very well. Came out, AI agent hype was massive in November, blew up, and then since then it's only just been slowly bleeding. And that's the exact same thing could happen with the DEX narrative. DEX narrative is hot now. Maybe the charts are like this, and then the coming months, it could just look like this. So be very careful not to get blinded by hype. Hype is temporary. Look for stuff that has potential to come back. That's where you make your money. I think that's the best way to bet your money. Is to look for a narrative that can come back, that's been dead for years, but has a chance to come back. In my opinion, it's always been Deepin. That's why I've been bullish on alt for so long, because I think Deepin has been dead for the last 2 years. But as AI gets bigger, I don't see why Deepin has not caught up yet. It makes no sense. But I think Deepin can make a comeback. That's where that's how I look. That's how I think. That's how my mentality works. I look for stuff that's been dead, but has at least relevance in the real world, because all the hype comes from relevance and in the real world. The reason AI agents blew up is because the rumors were that NVIDIA was going to release the AI agents. That's all it was. And because of that, every single AI agent coin went parabolic. Maybe this time, NVIDIA, I mean, robots already a shit. Maybe it's robots next. Maybe it's Deepin on robots. Like, that could be the next narrative. Just like a few weeks ago, we had that Deepin one, but a lot of the Deepin coins like AFA or Peak, all of them just pumped aggressively. That's what we call signs of a narrative waking up. Mugen, how you doing, buddy? Landshare Volume 2 is coming. What's your take on it? I've not looked into it, but Landshare is a very old project. I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but anytime I see Volume 2 on any project, it's just fucking, I don't like it. The reason is because if Volume 1 didn't work out, that's why you're releasing Volume 2. And this is a new product. But as I've always said, Landshare, what the fuck? They don't even have their Twitter account on here. What the fuck? That's weird. But anyways, the last time I looked into Landshare was probably like sometime in 2022, 2023, and they've literally had the exact same 3 products or houses that they've had since today. Later, they've got the same shitty properties, bro, and that's what's always worried me. This is why I thought this project is fucking ass, because they had this shit property, and this shit property 3.5 years ago almost. And since then, they have not got a new property. They haven't really done shit. So that's why I would be careful. I don't know what Volume 2 consists of, so I don't want to be speaking on it. I don't like speaking on stuff that I don't know what's. Okay, so here it is. A new chapter begins. Volume 2 is coming. Today marks an important milestone. So the new era. Past 2 years, we're building one of the first work in real estate. Okay, that's cap. Now we're ready to take everything we learned and scale it into something much bigger. So introduce Volume 2, a stronger, more scalable, fully integrated ecosystem that connects real-world real estate income with the power of DeFi. So basically yield on real estate. Okay, so real estate votes, earn yield from rental. Okay, yeah, obviously. Onboard real estate easily, compliance, tokenization tool, DeFi suit, staking, liquidity pool, lending, NFTs, new points. Yeah, but this is basically what most of real estate tokenization does. So I don't really think it's anything new. So yeah, I don't know. Not a fan of this though. And look, when the RWA narrative comes around, it will do well, no doubt. It will do well. because everything pumps when the narrative comes on. This is how it is. No, I'm not. I still hold my tokens because I'm down on it because I don't even. But I have not been keeping up with the updates, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know why the Solana phone isn't out yet, but it was supposed to be out like a month ago, but they've just been delaying it. Is Power AI a good buy? Depends what you want. If you want like a Power AI is not a bad project just because it got a decent amount of shooters. But I've not been paying attention to all the updates. I don't know what they got going on at the moment. But I don't know when the Solana phone is gonna come out, to be honest. It was supposed to be out like 2 months ago from my memory. So what do I think about StateX now condense plus? Yeah, so when like I said, with StateX, it has the highest chance to give you the most, gain. Why? Because of the hype they create around the project. And they have a good community, in my opinion. So if you look at a roadmap, very packed. So, for example, Q4 2025, platform expansion, global access, launch Unicorn Club. So that's like a whale club, exclusive high network investors with tier. So that's that one. Open tokenization, real estate opportunity for Europe retail, StateX loan, property flip model, introducing property backed yield models, private investor club, whatever, right? Where is the launchpad? So launch the RWA launchpad, which I think is going to be massive for the project as soon as they can get a few projects on there. So onboard first clients for onboard technology, StateX University, educational system. So you got a decent Q4, and in the mix of this, there is going to be new listings. And then in Q1 2026, regional growth, Prop X. So they're going to start launching their product, which is ideal. Government affiliate tokenization projects, real estate, Middle East launch. So they've got a very, very big, in my opinion, and they are going to be tokenizing A-list artists' music. It's quite unique. I haven't seen that in the tokenization space, which is something that I did recommend to them. I think that's a good. That's not something we normally see in tokenization because a lot of people tokenize just real estate and crypto. I feel like going into other sectors is always good. So yeah, I do like their roadmap. Hey, I do like their roadmap. Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, if they can hype it enough and execute what they say, you probably have more hype than a majority of these RWA coins. Satoshi, good to see you, but just my must 2 Satoshis. How many X's for Sensei from here? I think Sensei could easily pull. I think it will go back to close to his all-time highs, if not slightly higher than his all-time highs. Like a 10, 15X is still on the cards for Sensei, in my opinion. I think Sensei is a much, much better project than it was, when he pumped in November, December. Than now. I think now Sensei is a 10 times better project. Obviously, people don't look at that because they don't really keep up to date with the developments. But like the amount of money Sensei has now to push the project is not going to be the same amount of money they had back then. Now is going to be a lot more, in my opinion. Obviously, because they're generating stupid amounts of money now. And a lot of these projects they stay dead, and then just explode up very fast when the market really flips bullish. And dominance is still, it's in a bearish pattern. Dominance is bearish. Go on the daily more. It's in this rising wedge, which eventually will break to the downside. So far, it's been a bit more stubborn, but look at this rising wedge pattern. Eventually it will break to the downside. It's taking a little bit longer than, because we had that massive spike up. But I think eventually it will break down to the downside. Maybe another retest, maybe like a double retest, get rejected, and then come lower. But ultimately, the market will align in the next couple of weeks, and people are going to be like, "Oh, I wish I bought more." I don't see the cycle top happening because we're entering the easing phase of the cycle. There's no point being bearish when you're entering the easing phase, especially when America's, the world reserve currency, the biggest economy, blah blah blah, are easing. Majority of other countries have been easing. China's almost deflationary, so they don't even need to ease. They need to start injecting. I don't think this. I don't see this trade war actually. You know, I do not see this trade war escalating at all. It just doesn't. It doesn't benefit them either or. Both of them are not looking the best. China's not looking the best, and US is not looking the best. This trade war is just gonna fuck both of them up, in my opinion. So I'll be very, very careful. Anyways, guys, I think we can wrap it up. Let me have a look at USDT dominance. Okay, so USDT dominance is back tested support and it bounced, which is not ideal for us. You see this? So this is the crazy long-term support is held, man. It's ridiculous how strong is held this support for a decent amount of time now. But yeah, as soon as it comes below this and goes somewhere here, that's when you're going to see some stupid money. What's my top 3 coins? Where would you look? 1K for me is nothing. 1K for you could be worth like 10K. So it depends on how you're looking at it, my friend. It depends what 1K is worth to you. 1K for me, I'll just chuck into some DGen coin. If it goes to 0, I wouldn't care. That's 1K for me. 1K for you could be 10K for someone else. So it depends. If 1K is a lot for you, go put it in C and Arrow because they're going to be a bit safer. If 1K is nothing for you and you want to take more risk, go put it in Statex and Sensei. That's how we want to look at it. Obviously, Sensei and Statex has more chance to give you more money because they're 100 times lower in market cap. But 1K could be worth a lot for you, and you want to be less degen and take less risk and still make money. Then you have to go with Sensei and Arrow. That's how I would look at it, my friend. Yeah, guys, I think we can wrap it up. Hit the likes on your way out. I would appreciate that loads. I think it's time to go live regularly now, like maybe like every other day. Maybe I won't be live tomorrow, but I'll be live again on Friday. And then I'll be live again on Sunday. I'll probably be live like 3-4 times a week now. I want to be more active on my channel. I'll probably look into... No, actually, no, I don't matter. Anyways, appreciate you guys for coming down, especially on a late Wednesday. I normally just go live just like out of the blue. I don't really... A lot of people go live like 1 hour, 2 hour notice. I just go like 10 minutes before, and I appreciate all of you guys that come down and tune in. I do appreciate that loads. So hit the likes on your way out, guys. I'll see you guys on Friday. I will definitely be live regularly now, especially when major events happen. I feel like, it's unfair for my community to not at least go live when there's like some stupid shit happening in the market. So any major events, any, bullish events, bearish events, I will be live to talk about, what I think of the market. But on that note, guys, hit the likes. I'll see you guys in a few days. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye-bye.